And we are being recorded, so don't say anything that you will regret later.
I don't know. Well, let's not talk about politics, so we will be friendly, okay?
That's a really good idea. Let's don't talk politics. So, what kind of day are you having in Chablis? It's really a beautiful day here in Minneapolis.
I just put something on Instagram right now. It was 43 degrees Celsius in our Grand Cru. Can you imagine? That's over 90 Fahrenheit.
That's very warm. So you're going to have.
It's a little too warm, but I mean the vineyards are in good shape, good sanitary condition. So let's be positive. You know, we can expect harvest the last few days of August, beginning of September, but that we have to take into account the next couple of months. You know, you never know. But right now we are ahead of schedule.
I see your posts on Facebook all the time about how healthy your vines are and how old the vines are. And I know that is one of the reasons your wines are so extraordinary.
No, they're extraordinary because I have a good winemaker.
Is his name Fabien?
Yeah, I do the talking, but he makes the wine, eh?
So I think I know everyone that's going to join us for this would like to taste something early on. So maybe we could taste the Chablis, the 2018 Chablis, and you might have some comments on that.
Yeah, fine. It's in the fridge, so Fabien is going to pick up the bottle. So how's the weather in your St. Paul? You have a nice weather also?
It is a very, very beautiful day. It's not a cloud in the sky, and the high today will probably be about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So the summers here are really beautiful. The winters are brutal, but the summers are.
This is what we're going to taste, Chablis 18.
Correct.
That's the one Frederick Wineman have.
Yeah.
And the sales are not bad at all. You know, we have some good returns from them. You know, retail stores are working very nicely, and also sale by internet is okay. Of course, the restaurant, it's a disaster. Let's be positive, you know, for the future that everything start to reopen in July, August, you know, and get back on the road.
So tell me about the 2018 vintage in Chablis. What was it like?
It's like you know, in Chablis in 15, 16, 17 was very hard time. Small crop, almost everything in terms of disaster between hail, frost, disease. So, for example, in 17, average was between 15 to 20 hectoliters hectare. So 18, after 3 very hard vintage, it's back to a more normal but generous vintage because average it's more 65 hectoliters hectare, which is for us the third time since 2002, since the beginning of the domain. After 2004, 2011, 18 was the third with good yield. But no comparison to 2004 and 2011. 2004 we had lots of disease, lots of oidium, we had to sort lots of things, lots of grapes. 11 it was not so wide, so we had to chaptalize and everything. In 18, everything was almost perfect in terms of concentration, maturity, because even the straight Chablis is 13.5 natural degrees, so it's quite high. So it's interesting, generous vintage for the volume and also for the character, for the flavor, because it's a vintage already good to drink, lots of fruit, structure, but very easy to drink, even if it's young.
When you taste this 2018 Chablis, what do you taste? What is the
Wine, Chardonnay.
Sir? Chardonnay, white Chardonnay.
Surprising, no? Yeah. No, Chardonnay from Chablis, which is more typical. No, but 18, it's you are more on white fresh fruit than citrus aroma. In 17, it's really much more classic in terms of minerality, function. 18, you have minerality, but really white, more budget, and more on white fresh fruits, which is more generous and easy to approach.
It's very generous, right? It's a really kind of voluptuous wine for a Chablis, just village Chablis.
It's aperitif time in France, so I could drink it.
Yeah. I was checking on Alan Meadows this morning. He said not to drink it till 2022.
22. Oh.
I think it's ready to drink. I think it's delicious today.
Yeah.
You know, it's always a question of personal approach, personal taste. You know, if you like the fruit, the elegance, it's nice. You know, in the following 2, 3, 4 years. After that, well, you have a certain evolution. Myself, I like young wine. You know, I'm not a Chablis drinker, even for the Grand Cru of 20, 30, or 40 years old. No, really. I like them. The Chablis, it's nice as an aperitif for the next 2 or 3 years. You know, even if you have a 2014 right now, it's super, really. Okay? But the 18 right now as an aperitif with oyster, it's perfect. It's delicious. Chablis is magic.
Well, your Chablis is magic. Not all Chablis is magic. Oh, Fabien's Chablis. Well, Fabien's Chablis is magic. Your Chablis used to be magic.
Yeah.
You made some good wines.
Just for the village one, we just fermented in tank. There is no oak at all for this Chablis. Just because we use oak for all our cru, for the Vaillon and all our different Grand Cru, because they have the structure to support oak aging. For the Chablis AC, just on a simple lees, not a big lees, just enough to bring the texture. And oak is maybe too powerful for just a straight village.
I saw that, again, in Alan's notes, that you sold off some of the 2018 Chablis because the alcohol content, it was 14.5, which is too high for what you want your wines to be, which I applaud you for. What do you think contributed to that?
We had, it's more the Premier Cru Vaillon, which is just over 14 degrees, which is good for US market because go out from the 25% of taxes. But in terms of wine, sure, it's not perfect, but we're not going to put water in our wine in the must, so we have to manage that after. That's why in 18, on the winemaking process, we put the lees away just straight after alcoholic fermentation. We didn't work on the lees. We don't do that much, but especially in 18 to preserve the freshness, we put lots of lees away. And I think with the balance, the key also was to choose the right date of harvest also, not to harvest too late. And finally, I think the malic acid was very low. So even with the malolactic fermentation, we didn't have very low acidity. So finally, we have a quite good balance. Even for the Chablis acid, it's 13.5, but I don't think you feel it really on the palate. You have the balance. Sure, it's quite powerful wine, but when you finish the wine, the aftertaste, you don't really feel the alcohol.
I'm thrilled to see Bridget pop up on my screen. Is Bridget a U.S. sales director or something like that?
Hi, yeah.
Who are you, Bridget?
I'm the brand manager at Frederick Wildman. I didn't want to interrupt since I saw that we were already recording, but yeah, I just hopped on to, I know this is going to be an interview, so I don't think I have anything to do in this conversation, but I just wanted to introduce myself. Thank you for taking the time to do this with Christian and Fabien. We really appreciate it. Well,
the reality is I have been a fan lover of Christian and Fabien's wines for a long, long time. And so I was really thrilled that when I've been doing these, we've been doing these Zoom tastings, and I went through my Facebook feed to see famous people that
I'm sure Christian popped up a lot.
And Christian, I see him drinking Chablis at the bottom of the ski slope a lot. And
everywhere,
I never
champagne and
see him
Chablis.
skiing. I just see him drinking Chablis at the bottom of the slope. And I thought, wow, maybe he would be willing to do, and it just gave me an excuse to drink wonderful white wine at 10 o'clock in the morning. So, although I'm going to try to limit how much I drink.
10 o'clock in the morning, it's a good time to taste wine. And,
you know,
and for us, 5 p.m., it's good taste to drink.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because 4 weeks ago we had a tasting with Bartholomew Broadbent. You know who that is? His father was the director of Christie's wine department for a long time. And he said his father thought 10 o'clock in the morning was the best time to taste wine.
Yeah, for tasting. Yeah, you have a clean palate, and breakfast is a way. No, you are more clean in the palate. Afternoon, you're not so clear, I think, in your palate. The palate is not so clear.
It's fresh. Your palate's fresh.
Yeah, fresh. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Chablis, if you don't mind. Do you think Chablis should be part of Burgundy?
Attention, right?
A dangerous question.
No, we are the separatists of Burgundy. Chablis,
Brittany,
no.
Corsica.
We are the Corsica of Burgundy. Well, Chablis, of course, is part of Burgundy. We are the Golden Gate of Burgundy. That's when you arrive, let's say, from Paris, going south. That's where you start to see the first vineyard, in Joigny, which is Chardonnay, just simple Burgundy. And 15 minutes later, that's where you hit Chablis. Chablis with roughly over 4,000 hectares. 4,000 hectares of a different cru, starting with the Petit Chablis. Petit Chablis cover roughly 800 to 900 hectares. After that, you have the Chablis, which is close to 4,000, I think.
That's 3,500.
Yes. Follow that by the Premier Cru, which is roughly 800 hectares with a different climate name. You have one Premier Cru with roughly 13 to 15 different names, well known.
Right.
And after, we have our Grand Cru, 100 hectares. It's easier. 100 hectares, that's 250 acres, with 7 different climate names. And at the Domaine with Fabien, we are very lucky to have some Blanchot, to have some Leclos, to have some Valmur, Vaudésir, and also inside Leclos, there is a parcel that we call Clos des Hospices. It's a parcel that my great-great-grandfather bought from the Hospice of Chablis in 1904. It's not the 8 Grand Cru, there's only 7, but it's a monopole. Monopole like Bichot with La Moutonne, okay? And it's a parcel of 1 hectare divided in 2 in a family with our cousin Raymond. So that's Chablis. And lately, like Fabien told you, we had some small harvests, but 18 put us back on the market with a huge harvest. 19 were the smaller ones, especially in certain area. And right now, when you look at the picture that I sent on Facebook actually today, you can see the grape. They are in super condition. We might not make as much as 18, but we should be able to make what we allowed. Yes, I can recall maybe what we allowed. For the Petit Chablis and Chablis, we are allowed to produce 60 hectoliters per hectare. The Premier Cru, 54 hectoliters per hectare, 58, sorry. And the Grand Cru, 54. The overproduction of the Grand Cru has to be destroyed. Right. So that's, it's very limited. I think it's good, but I think this year we should be able to go to the maximum, between 60, 65 hectoliters, which is good. So we'll have some wine to sell, and to rebuild also the stock in our cellar. Because before 2018, Fabien can tell you, we were looking with binocular to find out the bottle, because too small harvest, especially when you produce 8 to 15 hectoliters per hectare, it's not much for the whole world. Voilà. Now, okay.
So what makes Chablis such a special place?
Well, you know, we have a soil called Chiméridien, made, if you come, here we have a little stone over there, made of oyster shell, because a million years ago, of course, the country, especially Chablis, I mean, were covered with the ocean. And you can see, you know, this, you can see all the small oyster in the soil. That's been digged with a tractor when we plow the vineyard, you see. And the roots, you know, that's where the roots go and feed themselves, you know, going down to 1 meter, 2 meters. And that's why you have that specific acidity, minerality that you find with Chablis. I mean, you cannot compare our Chardonnay with the Côte d'Or. Côte d'Or is richer, you know, but Chablis, you have a certain acidity. It's, you know, special.
It's more Chardonnay wine than Chardonnay grapes. Sure, it's coming from Chardonnay, but Chardonnay, it's varieties you could find anywhere in the world. But it's kind of, we are more, that's why on the label you see more Chablis leaves than Chardonnay. Really, the location of the parcel of the vineyard makes a difference with the climate, which is
if someone asked you to explain the concept of terroir, how would you explain it?
The terroir, it's not only the soil. I think it's a mixture between the soil, the varieties, the Chardonnay and the Woodstock also, and human. How the human, how my grandfather, my grand-grandfather, and the family started in 1814 in Chablis, so all the generation work in the vineyard in a certain way. You know, so that's a mixture between climate, varieties, soil, and human, I think, and that's the terroir. It's not only one thing; that's a mixture of everything to make something special.
So should we taste the Vaillant?
Yeah.
No, pardon. 16. Vaillant. 16.
Just so we know we're tasting the same wine.
Ah, good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so Vaillant, the domain we own just under 5 hectares of Vaillant. So we just own just some Premier Cru. In Grand Cru, we have several Grand Cru, but Premier Cru just Vaillant with 2 cuvées. And this one, it's a mix of 6 parcels. We have 7 plots of Vaillant, and that's a blend of 6 plots of Vaillant. And you could see which is, I don't know if you see the label, you show the label, but it's a Vaillant without any S. So most of the time, you have the Vaillant with the S. I don't know if you have seen that before. It's because when you look, you have an idea, you have an old map of Chablis. Vaillant, it's one of the biggest Premier Cru in size in Chablis, the second after Fourchaume. Fourchaume is the biggest one in size. And Vaillant is the second one in size, 100 hectares. But when you look back, when you look in the past, 60 years ago, it was just the original part of Vaillant was called Le Vaillant without any S. And after the plantation developed, go to over 100 hectares, and it's very, you have really different exposition in Vaillant. But Le Vaillant, it's really in the center of this court, and all our parcel is there. That's why we don't put any S on the label. It's really Le Vaillant. We had a southeast exposition, and most of the time, people are thinking about Vaillant, something softer, because in certain parts, we have lots of clay in the soil, give oneness to the wine. But in this place of Vaillant, it's quite steepest place with much more really the Chiméridien side. So our Vaillant is generous, like a Vaillant, but with a good tension and good balance.
Do you think that Vaillant 2016 is ready to drink, or would it benefit from a couple of more years in the cellar?
Yeah, you have on the nose just a touch of first evolution, but when the palate is finishing, you have this tension, this touch of bitterness also. So I think the wine it's ready to drink now. You could wait 1 or 2 more years, but now 16, 16 it's warm vintage also, a bit like 18, but with lower acidity compared to 18. So something I think it's ready to drink. You don't need to wait too much. And that's what we say to people. You could wait 15, 17, but drink 16, 18 now. So
I think these two wines are a really good illustration of the difference between a village level Chablis and a Premier Cru Chablis. The Vaillon is much richer and much more structured.
Bigger structure.
Bigger. It's almost tannic.
yeah, exactly.
In the finish, it's almost tannic, right?
But this kind of tannin, it's that's why we're using oak for the Vaillon, because in 16 the Vaillon was I think about 40% fermented in barrel. It's natural fermentation, but so it means 40% of the Vaillon start fermentation in barrels, and we blend after 8-9 months together the barrel and the tank. And what why we're using oak, it's for more this kind of structure, this tannin, not really for the toasty flavor. It's really this kind to bring texture and structure to the wine, and it brings more length to the wine.
What's the most important thing you learned from your father? Fabien, what is the most important thing you learned from your father?
We actually learned what he shouldn't do,
No, it's more humility. I think my father is very humble. He's got a strong personality, but it's not to put himself on the front line. He put always the Domaine or Chablis in general than him, which is good. And after hospitality, I think me, I'm more behind. I don't have this kind of personality, and I don't want to be like my father. I don't say he don't want to be like me. So that's why it's like good complementarity. And sometimes, sure, like a father and son, you could have time, but it's not so bad. So what I learned, this kind of thing. Then sure, when we started the domain in 2002 again together, he was not behind my shoulder saying, "Oh, you have to push the button here, to press 2 hours, 15 minutes, and not 3 hours." No, he just give me the key and go. After we talk, we are tasting together, and that's step by step we build a good business relationship.
Is your grandfather still alive?
No, my father passed away in '89.
Oh, so he has no role in the Renaissance.
No, my father passed. Well, if you can recall, the story with the Moreau family and wine man. My father was the beverage manager in New York at the French Pavilion during the World Expo in 1939.
Really? With
Yes.
Henri Soulet, the chef, Henri Soulet, and Paul Bocuse, and Henri Solder?
No, it was in 1939 at the World Expo in 39 in New York.
Yeah.
And he was managing all the wine and alcohol at the French Pavilion. And that's he was working with Bellows, and after that, Colonel Wineman, after the war, bought Bellows, and that's when the story with the Moreau family and Frederick Wineman started in 1939. So it's a long story, a good story.
So how long has the Moreau family been making wine in Chablis?
1814.
That's 200 years.
1840. That's why I don't have any more hair.
So
hey, that's right.
Fabien, what's it like, the responsibility of now being the next guy in a 200-year legacy?
Yeah, right, sure, but I don't really feel it. We manage the domain really the way we want. We don't have pressure, we don't have banker behind us or financial guy who tell us, "Oh, you have to increase the volume, you have to do that, you have to do that." We do we have 12 hectares. We're buying some grapes just for the Chablis AC. We average, we produce 150,000 bottles. So it's, and the commercial, it's working quite well. So it's pressure sure, but it's more the pressure of the nature with the ale, with the frost, or something like that after. It's not really a family pressure. I don't feel so far.
Do you have children?
Yes, I got two. Yeah, I got Romain at 14, and my daughter 16.
Do you think they will follow you into the wine business?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It will be their choice, not mine. It's you know, it's like my father. I've got two other brothers, two older brothers. I'm the youngest one, and my father never pushed pressure on my brother or even on me. And even me, it's just step by step. I moved to this. To the wine viticulture and Oenology, just step by step. When I was 18, I don't have the idea to work in Chablis. Just step by step, I said, well, it's interesting, and I did some viticulture license, Oenology degree, but later, I just step by step. And my children, I hope, sure, but we'll see. But they have to really enjoy that. It's not. If you don't like that, if you don't enjoy the vineyard or the cellar or even the commercial part, don't do that.
Is there, you know, I had a tasting years ago with Angelo Gaia, and he talked about when he first took over for his father in Piedmont, that there were things that he did in the middle of the night with flashlights. He did a green harvest in the middle of the night with flashlights because his father considered it sinful that the vines were, the grapes were a gift from God, and cutting shoots and letting them fall to the ground was actually sinful. So he did it in the middle of the night so his father wouldn't know he was doing it, which is an incredible kind of anecdote. But is there something you would like to change about the winemaking at Christian Moreau that your father will not allow?
No, he changed many things, you know, but I just let him do what he wants, you know. I'm not behind him. You know, I give him the key in 2001, and okay, I'm not far, we talked, but you know, when Fabien decided to go organic in 2007 or 2008, I never said anything. I said, that's your job now, it's your business, you do what you want. And he will probably have a next step later on, and that's his choice, and I respect, you know, I have a lot of confidence in what he's doing, that's all.
Well, he made these 3 wines, right?
Yeah.
So he's doing a really good job.
He's doing all the wines since 2002.
Yeah. So is it time to taste the Les Clos?
Oh, 17.
Wow.
Les Clos, first, Les Clos are holding, so Les Clos, it's, so like my father said, it's all the Grand Cru, it's 100 hectares, Les Clos, it's 24 hectares. So it's the biggest in size for Chablis. Maybe the most well-known Grand Cru because that's the original vineyard planted in Chablis by the monk. It was in Les Clos because just outside, facing south, easy to understand why they start to plant vineyard vines here. And we own, it's come from a parcel of 3 hectares, so it's quite large plots. From the bottom part to the top of the hill of Les Clos, all on slopes. And the soil is really well-balanced soil between, it's relatively méridien. But when you look Valmur, it's more on the clay side of the terroir, Bordeaux more on the limestone side. And Les Clos is really well-balanced soil between the clay and limestone. That's why it has the structure, the power of Valmur, but the purity, the finesse of a Bordeaux. So it's really always a very balanced wine. It's not easy to drink when it's very young, because sometimes it's very close, but you have always a structure on the palate, very long lengths, and it's quite complex wine.
When I first smelled this, Les Clos just now. I poured it 30 minutes ago, probably. It's probably 50 degrees. But when I smelled it just now, what my brain said to me was, I'm smelling a Bellone oyster. To me, it smells exactly like a Bellone oyster.
Yeah.
Not reminiscent of a Bellone oyster. It smells like a Bellone oyster.
Yeah, it smells. Yeah, no. To be honest, 17 is sure. It was terrible in terms of volume, but in terms of wine results, it's one of the best vintage we produced since 2002 in terms of purity of the expression, of the balance. Les Clos, so in 17 we have 8 nights of frost. It was crazy because we have 7 nights, we use a candle, 7 nights, whoa, you get crazy in 17. So where we don't have candle, like Vaudésir Valmure, we produce 7, 8 hectoliters hectare. Les Clos, we reach 16 hectoliters hectare due of the candle. So finally, it's very small harvest, small volume, but we don't have over maturity flavor. All the rest of the season was perfect, almost perfect, very small yield, but in terms of concentration, it was not very high alcoholic level. It was just around 13, and acidity was very high. And finally, we have something, when it was young, 17 was not easy, a bit reductive and need times. And I think it's just open now, just starting. And in the next 2-3 years, it will be perfect.
What's your favorite of the Grand Crus? Which Grand Cru do you think is the grandest?
I like them all.
They are all different the year. But if you ask me, I just a political answer. Just if you ask me what is the most classic Grand Cru Chablis, I will show you Les Clos. Maybe not the easiest one to taste when it's young. Maybe Vaudésir, if you taste Vaudésir 17, you'll be more ready to drink. Les Clos need more time, but Les Clos, it's always changed in your glass. You pour the first time in your glass, you smell it. The second glass will be completely different, and that's why it's very interesting. Les Clos, it's always changing the glass. Had always lots of complexity.
Would you contrast the Vaillon, the 2016 Vaillon and the 2017 Les Clos?
But sure, the 16 is a bit rounder, softer compared to the 17. It's not so large like the 16, but very linear and very long aftertaste on the 17. No,
it doesn't have the energy of the 17.
Yeah.
17 has more energy compared to the 16.
So I know that, Christian, you drink the Chablis with oysters at the bottom of the ski slope.
Yeah.
What would you pair the Vaillon with?
Well, the Vaillon I will pair maybe with the salmon, Salmon, something a little richer, more mature compared to the oyster where you have, certain sweetness, yod, But with salmon, I think the Vaillon will be perfect. White chicken? Yeah.
And what about the Les Clos? What kind of food would you pair with that?
Just like that. I will just drink it like that. Well, Les Clos, you can have, you can have it with meat also. You can have, white meat. Les Clos here, just simple scallops, without nothing else, salt. And also with cheese. People always talk about red with cheese. Goat cheese, I think a Grand Cru will go better than a Volnay or Gevrey-Chambertin. Don't you agree?
Could not agree more. That I've been trying to convince people for years that most cheeses taste better with white wine than they do with red wine. In the United States, if you order a cheese plate, they give you a glass of red wine with it, and the cheeses are goat cheese and brie and cheddar.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's just a catastrophe. but a beautiful wine like this or a nice Vouvray or something would be so much better. I mean, port and Stilton tastes really good.
Yeah, of course, yes.
You know, Chianti and Reggiano taste really good, but or Brunello and Reggiano taste really good, but those are the exceptions, I think, to the rule. And I think a roast, the Lake Clos would be really good with a roast chicken.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
if I could get a breast chicken, that would be really good, but we don't much see them here. So what's your hope for the future, Fabien? What is the vision for Domaine Christian Moreau for the next 20 years?
You know, we're not a domain who look always to increase our land holdings or to find to change everything every year. No, maybe my character maybe also. No, just we move step by step, increase the quality. Now we are more on the details. Organic farming was a step almost now 10 years ago. Probably we move to a biodynamic way next year. We'll do some trial on 1 hectare, half Dijon and half on probably. It will a way also in the vineyard to change and things. It's always good to have some challenge like that. After just some details, and we just hope that the commercial side will continue, because when you see what's happened in the world, it's hard to have a long-term view of that.
Is global climate change a problem in Chablis?
It's a problem everywhere. So sure, in Chablis it's a problem. So yeah, when you see just this year, 2020, we'll probably start harvest 25, 26 of August, which is crazy. It will be probably the second time after 2003. 2003, we start 2007, the 27th of August. But when you look 20 years ago, or even 30 years ago, harvest time, what my father would say, it was the last week of September and mostly October. Now we are the last week of August. It's crazy. Sure, we have global warming. Everybody has this problem. So after we have to find the key, not harvest too late, but we have to be right also at the same time. Because when you see what's happened in south of France for the Grenache varieties, now people reach 16 degrees, but it's not ripe. So it's not a question of alcoholic level now. It's maturity of the tannin and everything. So that's tough. Well, everybody has to do something. So,
Fabien, do you have any thought of going to biodynamic winemaking, farming?
We just it's a way. I'm thinking. I'm not a revolutionary, so I need time to think about that. Biodynamic is more esoteric feelings. But I see, I know some people who are doing that, and you see the results in the vineyard. So I will do some trial. Certification maybe in a few years, but which is not the goal, but it's just a way to certify what we do, really do it. So yeah, probably I will try. We have to buy some material for that. So yes. Probably next year.
Christian, what is the most memorable bottle of wine of your life?
Of Chablis? Well,
in general. The most well.
I will tell you, my father had some good. My father didn't enjoy all the vintage. Really, that's he didn't have any old bottle in this cellar. But one of these best friends, when my father passed away in '89, and I think it was about 2 or 3 years later, one of these best friends came to dinner at home, and he brought a 1947 Chablis. I still have the empty bottle, and surprisingly, it was good. Even it was drinkable. It was not oxidized that bad. Still a good flavor, you know. But that bottle never moved from Chablis to Auxerre, which is a 20 minutes drive, and it was in the cellars, in my father's friend's cellars. And it was a special moment, I would say.
Wow.
And it was still good. It was still good, but that bottle did move. It didn't went to New York, San Francisco, came back to New York, you know, as a collector. It did move from the cellar.
So it was a 1947.
47, yes. I still have the empty bottle in my cellar.
Chablis, just Chablis, Village Chablis?
It was a Chablis Les Clos.
Les Clos.
It
From
was a Chablis
Christian
Les Clos.
Moreau?
And you know, in that time, Les Clos there was not too many vineyards, you know.
Right.
You know, in 1947, compared to what 5,000 hectares of different appellations planted, in 1947, you had maybe 300 hectares total in Chablis. So, voilà.
Wow, so 450 acres. I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, this has been very special. And I know my customers, my friends are going to really, really appreciate your time and your wonderful, amazing wines. So thank you very, very much.
Maybe next step, when all that, not bullshit, but all the problem will be resolved, you might come and stop in Chablis, because you probably come in Burgundy once in a while. I've
been to Burgundy a few times.
Yeah, but you miss the best place, Chablis.
I agree. It's funny. It's funny. I love Chablis so much, but I've been to Burgundy, I don't know, half dozen times. But, I've never been to Chablis.
And you miss it for 15 minutes, because when you drive from Paris, you know, you get off at Auxerre, it's 15-minute drive from the autoroute. So you miss the warmest place on earth.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I've never been there.
If you want us to talk to you later on, you know, you better stop if you come next year, you know. And, you'll see, well, the French are not that bad.
You know, people, I have never had a bad experience in France. I think, you know, I speak a little French, not very well, not nearly as well as you speak English. You both speak English. But people ask me occasionally, you know, what's it like traveling in France? Are the people rude to you? And I say, if you walk up to someone on the street or in a shop or something and say hello, they might be rude to you. Just like if a Frenchman in the United States walked up to you and said bonjour, you might react not that friendly. But if you walk up and say to a Frenchman in a shop or on the street, bonjour, they will know you're an American and answer in English, because they probably speak English, and they'll be friendly. There'll be no problems. It's a very simple thing. No matter how bad your accent is, people appreciate the attempt.
Yeah. No, as long as you know one word in French when you get to the restaurant, un verre de Chablis.
That's a great note to end on, Christian. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bridget. This was very, very special. And thank you for the wonderful wines that you made.
And be safe. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Very special. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.